This
Session.
conference will now be recorded.
Let me introduce myself. Uh, myself, Ganesh Kumar. I have around 8 years of experience in IT industry. Uh, so, about my experience, initially I worked on Linux administration role. I worked on around 3 years. After that, I was moved to cloud and DevOps operations. Since last 5 years, I supported cloud and DevOps operations. Okay, this is about my quick introduction. Uh, okay, okay. So I think I hope everyone aware of that course content and the course architecture, right? So we are planning to give demo DevOps with AWS Cloud. One moment, guys. Yeah, yeah. Apologies for delay. Okay. So I will give you a quick introduction about DevOps with AWS Cloud. Okay, so what is DevOps? What is mean by DevOps? So before you understand what is mean by DevOps, I will give you, I want to have some quick introduction about SDLC process. SDLC model, software development lifecycle. So once you understand software development lifecycle, then you want to discuss about what is mean by DevOps. In case you comes with development background, you already aware of this process, right? SDLC. So generally, let's say for example, if you take a scenario, let's say for example, you have a client, HSBC. Okay, so HSBC, it's a banking sector. Okay, so HSBC, they're looking for some internet banking applications. So you already aware of that banking. Most of the banking sectors using internet applications, right? So they want to. They're looking for some banking internet applications. So what the client do? They're trying to approach IT organization, IT organizations like Infosys or TCS, whatever. Okay, so they're trying to approach IT organization, and based on based on HSBC requirements, they will provide some requirements to IT organization. So IT organization take that requirements from that client. So according to that HSBC, according to customer requirements, IT organization develop software and give it to HSBC client based on their requirements. So once IT organizations take that requirements and then develop that software product, right, and then give it to HSBC client. But which process they need to follow? So to develop software application, to develop software project, they need to follow some process, right? So they will, most of the organization follow SDLC. So far, so far or to now, they are following some SDLC process. SDLC stands for Software Development Lifecycle. It's a step-by-step process. It's a step-by-step process. So to develop software applications, they will follow SDLC methodology. So if you see this template, see they're either the industry is following waterfall method or agile model, and we have a other SDLC, other methods like V model. So different methods are there. So most of the organizations prefer either waterfall method or agile model. So using waterfall method, they have developed SDLC process. Okay, so waterfall is the oldest model. Okay, but let's discuss why most of the organizations prefer agile model instead of waterfall method. It's the oldest traditional model. Okay, so let's discuss waterfall model and then we'll discuss agile model. So because in case if you choose waterfall model to develop your software applications, you will get you have some disadvantages. That's why most of the organizations moved waterfall method to agile model. Okay, so once we understand these two models, then we'll see what is meant by DevOps and why most of the organizations looking for DevOps model, implemented the DevOps model. See, as I told you, waterfall model, it's a step-by-step process, right? So once the IT organization taking that requirements from that client, according to that customer requirements, they will start process step by step. In case they choose waterfall model to develop SDLC, so these are all step-by-step process. So initially, so we have a different teams. You can observe we have a different teams here. So we have requirement team, analysis, design, coding, testing, and acceptance. So every team depend on previous team. You can see the requirement team initially they are trying to gathering requirements from client. So once they take requirements from the clients and once the requirement phase is completed, then they will hand over to analysis team, and then analysis team comes into picture and they start to analysis their requirement. So what they do analysis team doing, and they decide resource capacity and the resource components. So once requirement team gathering the requirements from client, it's a one-time requirement. So once they have gathering all requirements from that client, and then analysis team comes into picture. So analysis team doing, and they are decided some resource component. Resource components means which technology is suitable for that requirements. Like for example, they choose Java. So Java language is suitable to develop that application. Python language is suitable to develop that application. So they decide the technical components like language and also database. So which database is suitable for that requirement. So they decide database and other resource components. So once analysis team decide that required components, and then the design team comes into picture. So design team take that requirements from analysis team, and then they will start to write, and they will creating some flowcharts. So once design team take that requirement, entire project requirement, they will divide into some modules. Because in case your requirement team gathering some internet banking applications, internet banking project. So that project contains some modules. So you already aware of that applications, right? So if you go and check any banking internet applications, they have developed and provided some modules, like we have account application, we have loan application, and we have a transition application. So different kind of applications is there. So in the design phase, they will iterate multiple models, and then they will create some flowcharts. How create flowcharts and define that workflow. Once design phase completed the design, and then coding team comes into picture. So based on that flowcharts and based on that design, based on that architecture, the coding team start to write actual code, because they already decide some required components, right? Based on the technologies, they will start to write the code. So once coding team complete entire project modules, entire coding, they will hand over to testing team. So now testing team comes into picture. So you already know, right? So once completed entire coding part, so testing team test that end-to-end application code, and also they will test using some testing frameworks. So based on that application, they choose some frameworks, right? And tested those applications. So once testing team completed the testing, and then once your entire application is tested successfully based on client requirements, and your entire code handle that much of load, so this kind of testing they will done, right? So once testing team testing your entire code successfully, and they are planning to release your application to customer, they will deliver the software to customer. But you can see all are waiting for previous teams. Testing team waiting for coding team, and coding team waiting for design team, and the design team waiting for analysis, and analysis team waiting for requirements. So once the requirement team taking that requirement completely, then analysis team start their working. So once analysis team completed end-to-end, decided end-to-end resource components, and then design team start to create some workflows, flowcharts. So in case that organization choose waterfall method to develop software application, it will take, for example, they choose some internet banking application, right? Application project. So it will take around 2 years, let us assume. So to develop end-to-end application. So once initially they were gathering requirements, it takes 2 years to release that product, to release that application, to hand over to customer. So far, organizations, IT organizations follow this waterfall method to develop software application. So it takes years based on that application. But as of now, which is not suitable, because you already aware of that, right? So as of now, the business is dynamically increase. If you choose any sector, the business is dynamically increase, and the customers doesn't wait for that much of time. So they require continuous releases, like every 1 month or every 2 months. So they are not wait for months and years. So this waterfall method is not suitable. So they are not encourage this kind of models. So even in case if you choose waterfall method, we have some disadvantages. Okay, let's see those disadvantages. You can see these are all some disadvantages. It is difficult to estimate time and also cost for each phase of development process. Initially, when you're gathering requirements, you give some deadlines, right? You give some timelines. So you will complete some 1 year or 6 months or 8 months based on that requirements. But you are not estimated that time. Sometimes in case the testing is failed, and sometimes your code is not suitable and based on customer requirements, again you rewrite the code, right? Again you rewrite that workflows, you rewrite the design. So sometimes the time is sometimes you can difficult to estimate that exact time period to deliver your products. So once the time is increased, cost also reduce. Sorry, cost also increase for each phase of development. So once an application in testing stage, it is very difficult to go back and change something that was not well. So this is main problem. So once your requirement team gathering requirements, the customer requirements are fixed. In case after 2 months or 3 months, they want to insert any new features or new changes, it is not possible, because initially they are gathering all requirements. So there is no option to inject our new resources, the middle of the application development. So it is very difficult go back and change something. So in case the customer want to update any new changes. So once the first version is released, again they are planning to release second. They are planning to develop second version. Again, they talk to requirement team, and again requirement team gathering version 2 changes, and then again start to write application code. But it is very difficult to inject new changes at the time of development, and not a good model for complex and object-oriented projects. So, and it is not suitable for projects where requirements are at moderate to high risk of the change. So once requirement team gathering requirements, the customer requirements are filled. There is no option to inject new requirements at the time of application development. So that's one of the major problem in case if you choose waterfall method. So to overcome waterfall model, so far IT organizations introduce agile methodology. So agile, in case once you choose agile methodology, they are overcome some problems when you compare waterfall method. Clear? Agile model. So, okay, I will give small. So I will show you some scenario how agile model overcome waterfall disadvantages. So you can see this diagram. It's a ICSA internet banking application. You can see you have some internet applications. You have personal model, privilege, wealth, private, NRI, business, SME, and corporate. So this internet application contains some list of models, right? So we have different models here. So we have personal banking application, privilege application, wealth, and so on. Instead of waterfall model, in case if you follow agile methodology to develop this application, this banking application, see, so we have different models, right? So they categorize different models. So we have a different teams, right? So in case if you follow waterfall model, other teams waiting for dependent team. So initially, so once the organization taking that requirements, only requirement team working at the communicate with customer and then taking the requirements. So once the requirement gathering is completed, then analysis team is comes into picture. Same like other teams also. So in case if you follow waterfall model, other teams are waiting for previous team approval, previous team updates. But in case if you follow waterfall model, so initially, so first they choose personal banking application. So they're trying to gathering personal banking application requirements. So requirement team working on personal banking applications. So instead of entire project, they will take only particular application requirements. So they will finish within 1 week or within the days, right? Because it's not entire project application. It's a one module only. So they will gathering requirements for personal banking. So once requirements is gathering, then they are hand over to analysis team. So analysis team working on components requirements. So in the meantime, requirement team taking requirements from privileged banking application. So once personal banking application completed, then they will start to taking privileged banking application requirements. So analysis team already working on personal banking. Okay, so once analysis team gathering the requirements and then hand over to design team. Again, analysis team start to working on privileges. They're trying to gathering requirements from privilege team. You can see now requirement team gathering requirements from wealth application. Analysis team decide resource components for privilege banking application. Design team designing personal banking application. And same like in case once resource team completed wealth application requirements, then they will start to discuss private banking application requirements. And then once design team complete personal banking application, hand over to coding team. So coding team will start to write personal banking application. We can observe every team working on application, every team working on each module. They no need to wait for previous team approval, because already requirement team gathering the requirements and provided analysis team decide resource components and technologies, and then design team created flowcharts for that module, and then coding team start to writing that code based on the design team workflow. You can see every team working on each and every module. So there are no need to wait for previous team approvals, previous team updates. So once you follow agile model, they will quickly build and quickly develop software applications. So it's not a step-by-step process, and they no need to wait for each and every team approvals and previous team updates. Once required team take that requirements from private module, then they will start to discuss NRI module, like that other modules also. So every team working on specific module. Okay, so they will easily complete same banking application within 8 to 10 months. In case if you follow waterfall method, initially they were gathering all requirements at once. So once entire all modules they're gathering at once, then they will start to write code, right? But once you choose agile model, they iterate, they prioritize modules. So they prioritize modules and choose each module at once. So every team initially working on one specific module and then start with other modules. So once requirement team gathering requirements and the requirements are completed, then they will start to take that other module requirements. So in case, for example, now requirement team working on business module, they coordinate with customer and taking that business requirements. At the same time, customer, for example, the personal banking application is done. Our developers writing the code, and the testing is successfully tested, and they are planning to release within 1 month or 2 months based on that application. So there no need to wait for other modules. At least customer satisfied, one module is go live within 1 month or 2 months. But after releasing that application, customer want to upgrade personal banking changes. Already that organization develop and release that product and hand out to customer. So customer, that application already using customer end users. But after few days, customer wants to inject some new changes. So they have already personal banking application and their end users using that application, but they want to change, they want to add some new features in that personal banking application. So what IT organization does, again, simply they will start to take requirements. Again, the requirement team gathering the new changes of that personal application, and then they will start to writing the code. Because in case if you follow agile model, you can inject new changes at the time of application development. Same like they will planning to develop other modules also. So initially the team prioritize that modules, and then they start to develop that particular application. So instead of entire project, in case they prioritize and start develop that particular application, they will easily develop, right? They can easily gathering requirements, and they can easily decide resource components and design flowcharts and develop that code, and also testing is also done easily. Okay, so instead of waterfall model, in case if you follow agile, your software development is speed up. So they will develop that application more quickly when you compare waterfall model. You can see it's a small this following diagram illustrate how customers, how developers prioritize that list and then iterate that features, and then how that agile will do that activities. So initially, so these are all, let us assume these are all some banking applications. So that application product, that project contains some list of modules. So then initially they will not taking all what we call all modules requirements. So they will prioritize that requirements, iterate that features, and then start to writing the code. So once they follow agile model, they can quickly taking the requirements and develop that software applications. But why people are looking for DevOps? So we have a good model, agile model. Using that agile model, you can implement software development lifecycle. But why people are looking for DevOps? In case if you choose agile model, it will develop your software product quickly. But again, you have to wait for deployments. You have to wait for deployments. So your developer develop the code more quickly and rapidly, but the developer wait for deployments because there is a gap between developer and the operations team, development team and operations team. Because development team develop the application continuously, but operations team, they are not allowed to deploy continuously. So simply they said, in case if you deploy your application continuously, we are getting some issues. So we want to maintain our environment stability. In case if you deploy continuously your applications, you will facing lot of issues. So suddenly that instances are hanged, the systems are hanged, and we are following some security policies. So it will not reachable the security policies. So they will give lot of issue. They raise a lot of issues to deploy your application continuously. So to overcome these issues, DevOps comes into picture. But before we discuss DevOps cases, you can see waterfall model disadvantages. Sorry, agile model disadvantages. It will incrementally develop your applications. Software is developed incrementally under rapid cycles. So this result in small incremental release with each release building on previous functionality. And it support emphasis on iterative, incremental, evaluatory development. So in case if you choose agile model, you can develop your software application rapidly and incrementally. But again, you have to wait for deployments because there is a gap between some delay is happening. Even if you choose agile model, some delay is happening. What is mean by delay? Instead of any model, either you choose agile model or waterfall model or V model, some delay is happening. There is a gap between development team and operations team. Okay, so before we start DevOps, you should understand what is development team and operations team. You can assume development team is a purely development, right? So in case some group of Java developers working on some project, it's a development team. So group of Python peoples working on some project, it's a development team. So we can easily assume development team use cases. But what is meant by operations team? What it does basically, operations team. So development team develop the software, develop the application. So we can easily analyze. But what is operations team responsibilities? What exactly they are doing? So these are all some operations team responsibilities, right? Installing some softwares, installing servers, hardware, and operating systems, configure server, and taking daily regular backups, and managing some storage activities, some network activities, and also monitoring servers 24/7. They can monitoring, respond outages, and security, change control, and backup, disaster recovery plan. So these are all some key points about operations team. So operations team will take care of all these things. These are all some responsibilities. Do you think you have a small IT organization? You have around 100 employees. So from start to end, all employees are working only development environment? Is it true? Because most of the freshers are new, in case they are not aware of IT organization structure, they thought about all are working development team. No, it's completely wrong. Might be 50% or 60% people working on development environment, but the remaining 50% people can manage operations team activities. Without operations team, developer cannot do anything. Yeah, of course they have developed application, but to deploy and manage that applications, they need infrastructure. So who is manage that infrastructure? Operations team. Obviously operations team. So operations team can handle installation part, configuration part, monitoring part. Let's say developer develop application, deploy that application, your application running your production live environment. Suddenly your instance down, suddenly your system down. Simply developer raise a request to sub operations team. So and so instance down, please do immediately. They don't know, right? They don't know how they can restart or how they can troubleshoot that outage issues. Again, they will contact operations team. They will notify to operations team. So operations team will resolve that issues and they can monitor 24/7. Okay. Okay. Now we should understand development team and operations team. But what is mean by gap? Okay. So even if we follow agile model, there is a gap between both teams, right? Development team and operations team. So what is mean by gap? So far, around I think 50 organizations they formed some team and they had research why the gap, the delay happened. So finally they decide the delays happen some gap between. Simply they give some statement gap between development team and the operations team. So to overcome the gap issues or delay issues, they are introduced DevOps. Reason for delay. So after years, they had research. They finally give one statement: gap between development team and operations team. That's why even if you develop your application more quickly using some agile model or V model, but still the delays happen. So finally, they give statement gap between your development teams and operations teams. So to overcome these issues, DevOps comes into picture. DevOps is not a technology, it is a methodology. DevOps is a methodology. Simply we say it's a process, same like waterfall or agile. It's like a model. So instead of waterfall model or agile model, as of now, most of the organizations choose DevOps methodology to develop software development lifecycle. So using this methodology, they will implement SDLC process. And the DevOps promotes collaboration between development team and operations team. So our main aim is to reduce gap between development team and operations team. Okay, because so this allows deploying code production faster in more automated way. So how we can achieve some automated way? So we have some tools. We have a tools in DevOps, right? Using the tools we can implement the DevOps environment. So it's not a technology, it's not a tool, it's a methodology. Using that process, we can implement. And our main goal is reduce the gap between development team and operations team. Let us take some scenario. For example, you have a development team, you have an operations team. Okay, development team, they wants to raise one request to operations team. They need database, Oracle database 18C something. So they need Oracle database environment. So simply they raise a request to operations team. In case already that enrollment available, operations team immediately respond. But let us assume operations team gives statement currently no enrollment. They said simply there is a no enrollments to develop that application, to create that application. Simply they said infrastructure, no infrastructure, and skill set. There is a no DBA peoples, because to install and configure the database application in our instances, we need a DBA guy, right? So currently no skilled person. So they will give some notifications, and if you want immediately, or if you want that Oracle DB application, you have to wait for some time. So we are planning to procure those server rooms. So there is no server rooms available to configure this application. So this kind of replies they send development team. So what will happen in case immediately operations team they are not provided those requirement to development team? Automatically that releases are delay, right? Because once immediately they will get that requirements, they simply link that web server and they will test and write that code and release immediately. But there is a delay between operations team, because I'm talking about traditional process. Okay, so there is no proper infrastructure to develop that application, and also you have to wait for some time. So automatically the development is delayed, that releases are delayed. So once DevOps comes into picture, in between development and operations teams, you will resolve that issues. You can reduce gap between these two teams. So developer wants Oracle DB. Yes, as a DevOps engineer, simply take that requirement. In case your operations team said there is a no infrastructure, no problem. So we have some automation tools, right? So using some Docker or some Docker, simply you can create one container and then provide those credentials to your developer. You no need to aware of that language. You no need to aware of that Oracle DB language and the skills, not required, because the tools provided that level of features. So simply create Docker container for Oracle database and then provide those credentials to your developer. So simply your developer link to that web application code, and then they start to write, they start to develop that application and then release. What will happen? Once DevOps team provide their requirements instantly, automatically the gap will reduce, and also they will release products more quickly, because DevOps team reduce that gap and resolve the delays. So in case they talk to operations team said wait for 30 days, wait for 2 months for that particular requirement. But once immediately DevOps team comes into picture, within 5 minutes, they will provide requirement. How they can achieve? They can use some automation tools, right? So one of the container tool is Docker. Using the Docker, simply create one container and provide those credentials to the developer. Developer immediately start their writing the code and test that application code. They no need to wait for days and months. So automatically that gap will reduce. So I'm talking about small scenario. So same like we can resolve more issues when you compare traditional process. So that's why most of the organizations implemented DevOps. Okay, clear? So it helps to enable rapid deployments of your products. It enhance our software delivery products, because they will resolve the delays. So once DevOps team comes into picture, they will resolve that issues. They will resolve that gap. Your operations team says currently there is no infrastructure, but DevOps comes into picture. Yes, we can provide. So within the minutes they can provide based on that infrastructure and requirement. One moment, please. Okay, clear? See, there is a wall of confusion between development and operations team. But once DevOps comes into picture, they break the wall and reduce the gap and reduce the delay. So the developer quickly develop and deliver the software products as soon as. So because as of now, the business are going dynamically. So customer, they don't want to wait for more than months and more than years. So they want to release that products within a month or within a week. So few clients looking for weeks only. So they want to release that new products every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. Because in case if you compare banking application, so they have some competitors, right? In case once today HSBC release one application, one banking application, but after 1 week ICICI release same application, but they release some enhanced features. Again, customer talk to IT organizations. So I want to implement the new feature because my competitor already released same application. So I want to release some new version. Again, you can start to gathering the requirements. So according to that requirements, again your developer start to write code and continuously you can take that requirements and analysis, design that workflows and start to write coding and then continuously test and continuously deploy your application. But in case if you follow agile model, your developers continuously develop that code, but they have to wait for deployments. But once you migrate DevOps environment, continuously the deployments also happen because you don't need to wait for operations team approvals. So from code to production, you can continuously manage our activities, manage our process. You don't need to wait for previous team approvals and you don't need to depend on any other team approvals. So it's a cycle. It's like a cycle. So you can develop code to production without any approvals. So the DevOps will break that wall between development team and operations team. Okay, so now you should understand what is DevOps, why we go for DevOps process. And one more thing, DevOps is not a technology. It's like a process. It's a methodology. So by using DevOps methodology, we can develop our software application. We can release our application. Make sense? And our main aim is collaboration between development team and operations team. So there is a gap between both teams, right? So why we comes into picture? To reduce that gap, to reduce the delays. Clear? Okay. So how we can achieve this process from code to production without any manual interaction? How we can continuously integrate our code and build and test and deploy our applications from code to production environment? We needed tools, right? So using some automation tools, we can achieve these things. We can do that. See, these are all some automation tools we will discuss part of our technical session. So we already done introduction. What is DevOps? What is mean by DevOps? Why we go for DevOps methodology? And Linux. Linux is a prerequisite. So before you start automation tools, you need to learn at least 30% of Linux administration. So you don't need to learn entire Linux administration, but at least you will learn 20 to 30. Some basic scenarios are required because most of the organizations, not only our demo part, most of the organizations, they will build and manage automation tools in Linux environment. So as a DevOps engineer, before you start to learn any kind of applications, at least you need to learn some basic commands in Linux. Okay. So once we complete Linux part, so I will show you course content, the fully course content. It's a high level course content. I will show you what are the topics we will cover part of technical session. So, but Linux is prerequisite. Okay. So once we complete Linux, and then we will start our actual services. So we will discuss Git and GitHub repositories for source code management. It's a version control tool. I will tell you what is version control, what is source code management. And for source code build, we choose Maven integration tool to build and generate artifacts using this Maven. And for continuous integration, for CA and CD, we will implement Jenkins continuous integration tool. So using that Jenkins, we can implement continuous integration and continuous deployments. And for infrastructure provisioning, we choose Docker and Kubernetes. So for container-based orchestration, we choose Kubernetes. So using that Kubernetes, we will create infrastructure. And using the Docker, we can manage the runtime environments. So we will cover both Docker and Kubernetes. Simply we say for container-based orchestration, we choose Kubernetes, and for runtime environment, we integrated Docker. And for configuration management, so for configuration management, we choose Ansible. So using this Ansible, we can do configuration changes in our regular intervals, in our environment. So you can do at a time multiple target locations. Let's say, for example, you want to patch some packages in our existing instances. Let's say your application running more than 100 missions in our production, either production or staging or development, whatever. So you have more than 100 missions. You want to install that specific patch application in our environment. So you don't need to log in every remote mission, and you don't need to do manually each and every remote mission. Simply using Ansible, you can perform same activity at a time, all target locations. So you can reduce some activities. So simply create a playbook, and then using that playbook, you can do at a time all target locations. So those kind of configuration changes will perform using Ansible. So these are all main content, and also we include Terraform also. So we will cover Terraform. So Terraform, we already know, right? It's it's one of the IAC tool, infrastructure as a code. So using the Terraform, you can describe your entire infrastructure as a code. Okay, so using Terraform, we can we will discuss the infrastructure part, how we can provisioning your entire infrastructure as a code. But where you can run all these tools? Yeah, obviously Linux operating system, where your infrastructure configure, where you can provisioning your infrastructure. Yeah, we have a lot of options, right? Either in our local environment, or simply you can set up virtual environment, virtual DevOps environment, or else you can run all these applications in our standalone mission. But most of the organizations, as of now, they will implement it and deploy their applications in cloud, right? So even we are planning to deploy all these applications and configure in cloud technology. So we choose Amazon Web Services, AWS Cloud. Okay, that's why part of our course we will cover AWS Cloud Services also. So initially we will discuss some Linux commands, whatever services required for our DevOps tools. We will cover those prerequisites, and then we will discuss some cloud services. So whichever services required in order to deploy and develop those applications, we will discuss part of AWS Cloud. So mainly we will focus EC2 service, one of the computing service, right, part of AWS, and we will discuss EC2 and VPC, networking, and also we will cover monitoring tool, CloudWatch. So using the CloudWatch, we can monitor our existing applications and also entire resources. Whichever resources you have created, part of infrastructure deployment, so those resources it will monitor. And also we will gathering some metrics information. In case you want to monitor particular metric of that instance or service, you can configure those metrics and alarms. I will show you that full content, course content. Okay, so we will discuss some cloud services also, because most of the automation tools we are planning to implement it, we are planning to deploy in our cloud service. Again, you don't need to create a separate environment for our lab session. So I will show you how we can do that. Okay, so simply can register AWS free tier account. As of now, AWS Cloud provided free tier account up to 12 months. So you can use free tier account up to 12 months, but some limitations are there. I will tell you which services are free tier and which services are paid versions. Okay, even once you create free tier service, free tier account, you can use only some limited services. But don't worry, I will show you how we can configure which services comes into free tier and which services come into paid version. I will explain going on sessions. Okay, so these are all automation tools and services we will discuss part of technical session. Okay. Okay, let me open a course content. Yeah, you can see. So this is our overall course content. I hope you guys are already got this PDF file. So initially we will focusing on enrollment setup. So creating account in AWS and understanding regions and availability zones, and also installing required softwares in our desktop, and then set up access to AWS cloud using some keys, and then create some services in AWS and understanding Linux commands, and then we'll perform all this. These are all some Linux related commands. So these are all prerequisites before you start to learn DevOps and cloud services. So why we include AWS cloud services? Because as of now, most of the organizations looking for multi-skill people. Let's say, for example, let us assume you learn DevOps end to end. You have a good knowledge on DevOps tools and you have a good knowledge on real-time environment. But in case if you are planning to move your current organization to new organization, definitely they will ask, do you have any idea about cloud? So as a DevOps engineer, at least you should knowledge on one public cloud technology, public or private, whatever, but most of the organization looking for public cloud providers. So once you understand one public cloud services, you can easily manage other public cloud services. Let's say, for example, in our session, we will discuss AWS cloud services, right? So once you understand AWS cloud services and then process, you can easily manage other public cloud providers. So as of now in market, we have a different cloud providers, right? So Windows provide Azure cloud services, and the Google provide GCP cloud services, and the Oracle provide OCA. So we have a different cloud public providers, but you don't need to learn all public providers at once. Once you should understand one public cloud provider services and use cases, you can easily manage other public cloud providers. Why? Because process wise both are same, only some technical terminologies are different. Apart from the process wise, all public cloud services are same. That's why in case you are aware of AWS but your customer looking for Oracle cloud, no issue, they can easily prefer you because you are already aware of the cloud technologies, right? They can easily train you within 1 week. They can easily train you because you already learn about some other public cloud providers. Okay, so that's the advantage, and that's why we include AWS cloud services also. But our main focusing is DevOps. We are to learn that to explain that automation tools. But why we include AWS cloud services also? Because most of the organizations looking for multi-skill people, and most of the organizations implemented DevOps services, DevOps process in cloud technology. So that's why we include AWS cloud also. Okay, so these are all some environment setup topics, and then we will focus version controlling tool Git, and also we will discuss installation of Git and what is version control and difference between distributed version control and centralized version control. So we will discuss all these things one by one. So part of Git session, we will focus all these points, and then once we complete source code session, then we will start Jenkins. Jenkins for CI/CD, we can use Jenkins. What is CI/CD? What is job? What is build? So we will discuss all these things. How we can integrate your code, your source code from GitHub repository to Jenkins, and how we can continuously integrate, build and test and deploy. So those kind of CI/CD activities we can perform using some pipelines. Even once we complete some manual process, I will explain some real-time scenarios also. Okay, so I will explain some, I will create and show you some pipelines, because most of the organizations using pipelines, they were implemented CI/CD. Okay, so as a DevOps engineer, you should understand the pipeline concept also. Okay, so I will show you 2 or 3 projects, some real-time kind of scenarios, how we can do that CI/CD activity continuously. Problem loading, just a minute. Yeah, now see, once we complete CI/CD part, then we will start Docker and Kubernetes. So as I told you, for container-based orchestration, we choose Kubernetes, right? And for runtime environment, we choose Docker. So as of now, most of the organizations, they are migrated compute environment to container-based environment, right? So a few applications, they want to deploy and maintain Kubernetes. So for infrastructure provisioning, we choose Kubernetes. And these are all some bullet points we'll cover part of technical session. If you want, you can review all these things. And then for configuration management, we choose Ansible. So we will discuss installation part, configuration part, and then I will show you how to write playbooks and how to develop Ansible roles. Okay, we will discuss part of our session, and also parallelly we will discuss some monitoring tools. So as I told you, even we already inject some AWS cloud services, right? So we already choose some CloudWatch service to monitor our entire end-to-end applications and also resources. So using that CloudWatch, I will show you how to configure some metrics like CPU, memory, disk, file system, or network. If you want, you can create your own custom metrics also. Sometimes in real time, generally most of the cloud providers, they will provide predefined metrics. But those are all global metrics, right? You will get some default metrics type. In case, let's say, for example, you have an application, you deployed application in our AWS environment. Based on your application, you want to collect some custom metrics, but that related metrics code is not available in your cloud account. Simply, you can go ahead and create your own custom metrics. Okay, so I will show you the custom metrics part also. So I will show you some real-time monitoring part also, how we can create and develop your own customized metrics based on our application. Okay, so those kind of real-time scenarios we will discuss. So our main aim is to focus real-time scenarios. So what is what, how we can implement, you can easily get it. Even if you go and check any search browser or blogs, you will get a lot of options. You will get some good blogs also. You can easily understand what is Ansible, how we can create playbook. But the real-time approach is important, right? So once you should understand the real-time kind of scenarios, you can easily implement those services in our environment. Okay, so that's why we will focusing on mainly real-time scenarios. And also we will discuss Terraform. So since the last 2 years, most of the clients looking for Terraform also. That's why we include Terraform. So for IAC, infrastructure as a code, we choose Terraform. So whatever AWS services we cover part of our session, using Terraform, we implemented automatically. So initially, I will show you manually how to create and how to implement those services in our AWS account. And later on, I will show you how we can automate those services by using Terraform. Simply you written Terraform script, and then you can, once you run the Terraform script, it will automatically provisioning your required AWS services in our account. You don't need to log in your AWS console every time. So let's say, for example, you have written your Terraform scripts in our local machine. So you can handle your end-to-end infrastructure resources from our local machine. So simply written Terraform script and describe our resources, which resource you want to provisioning and which resource you want to configure, you want to change. Simply define those definitions in the Terraform, and then you can provisioning your resources. So I will show you some resources creation. These are all some services we will focusing on. Okay, so this is our overall end-to-end course content. We'll cover part of DevOps with AWS. Okay, I think it's already 9:05. Okay, so give me 15 minutes. I will show you some basic cloud scenarios also. Okay, is that clear? Any questions here, DevOps and the course related? Okay, we will discuss once we complete AWS part also. Just a moment. Yeah. Okay, I will give short demo. What is cloud computing? Why we go for cloud technologies? Because you will get some doubts, right? Why we go for cloud? So I have enough infrastructure. I have a own on-premises data center. So why I go for AWS? Why I go for cloud? So we have a lot of advantages. That's why most of the people they were planning to migrate cloud technologies. You can see what is meant by cloud computing. So as a DevOps engineer, you should understand all these things. So you good with DevOps, you have a good knowledge in SDLC process, and you have a good knowledge and you have good skills on some DevOps automation tools. But the tools are running AWS cloud. The tools are running cloud technology. So if you don't know cloud, how we can manage, how we can automate that entire end-to-end infrastructure? So application level, you have a good knowledge. So you have good knowledge on Kubernetes, Docker, or Ansible or Terraform, whatever. But suddenly one Terraform instance down, which is located over cloud technology. How we can troubleshoot? How we can investigate? You don't know anything. So that's why you should understand and you should learn some important services in cloud. So the cloud computing general term for delivery of hosted services over the internet. Cloud computing is a general term for delivery of hosted services over the internet. Delivery of hosted services, meaning over the internet, you can manage your end-to-end infrastructure. You don't need to go for anywhere. You don't need to go for somewhere. And you don't need to wait for other team approvals. If you want, for example, I want database instance. Yes, if you're ready to pay, they're ready to give you. Simply log in your AWS account and then choose your required resource capacity and then launch. Within fraction of seconds or within the minutes, based on our bandwidth speed, you will get that resource. But you're ready to pay, because once you launch instance, once you create resource in AWS cloud or any other cloud, automatically your billing would be generated. Okay, so hosted the services over the internet. So over the internet, you can manage your end-to-end AWS services. Not only AWS, other cloud services also. And Amazon provided, and which is offering different platforms. So which is offering compute power, database storage, network, content and delivery, and other functionalities to help business scale and grow. If you go and check AWS cloud, you will get more than 2000 IT services. So using that services, you can implement your end-to-end IT infrastructure, end-to-end your application infrastructure. You don't need to go for anywhere. So you will get end-to-end IT resources. And which is offering different functionalities, right? So it is providing systems provisioning, database, and data storage capacity. So which one you want? Which one you want? Simply go to your console and then choose which resource you want to deploy. But if you're ready to pay, they are ready to give you. So pay as you go. Same like prepaid services. So we already aware of that postpaid or mobile bills, right? In case if you're ready to pay 500 per month, 500 rupees per month, they will give that services, that related packages, that related offers. If you're ready to pay 1000, they will give that related packages. Same like cloud services also. If you're ready to pay, yes, you can use our services. Pay as you go. So you can enable customer to procure services from our AWS. So we as of now, Amazon provided different kind of functionalities. So which one you want, simply choose that service and then launch our resources. And advantages. So we have a lot of advantages when you compare on-premises data centers. One is for flexibility. If you compare physical or on-premises data centers, you can easily set up your infrastructure, your end-to-end infrastructure, because you don't need to procure physical resources. You don't need to procure physical resources. Simply register AWS account and then choose and configure our required resources. The rest of infrastructure part take care AWS organization, because we will pay some charge, right? So we are using some resources. Based on that resource utilization, we will pay charge every second and every hour, every minute. So that's why they will provide some easiest way to develop our end-to-end infrastructure. Because as of now, Amazon Cloud provided every functionality like a web service. For example, you need a virtual machine. Yes, they will provide virtual machine like a web service. You don't need to go for any data center. Simply log in your account and then choose your required components and then launch instance. So over the internet, you can host your entire resources. And the cost effectiveness. Yes, obviously the cost will be reduced. Why? Because you don't need to procure physical data, physical resources, right? In case, let us assume you have a own data center and your entire application deployed and running your own data center. Okay, you got a new requirement. You want to create new. You want to set up one new server box. You don't have any enough physical resources. What you will do? Simply you can procure new instance, right? I mean, new system, new physical system. You will pay for more charge to procure physical resources. But in cloud, you don't need to procure any resources. Simply go to your login, go to your console page, and then launch our resources. So obviously the cost will reduce. For example, today you need that resource, but tomorrow you don't want to use that resource. Yes, in case if you want today, simply create that resource, deploy our application. Once your application testing is completed, if you want to destroy, yeah, simply you can go ahead and destroy. Once you destroy or once you delete that resource, Amazon stop your building, because it's a virtual resource, right? It's a web service. So only they will calculate your resource utilization. Because once you stop that resource or once you destroy that resource, your billing automatically stop. You will pay for only that resource capacity utilization. So automatically your cost reduce, and also your manpower reduce. So mainly you will focus manpower. In case if you take, in case you have developed one application, some gaming application or whatever, some internet banking application. Once you develop application and after that you are planning to release that application entire global. So to develop application you need 10 machines or 20 machines, right? That's more than enough to develop and test that application. But in order to release that application entire global, you need a huge infrastructure. Otherwise that application cannot handle that much of load, because millions of requests comes every second. Because once you release any gaming application, millions of users using that application, right? So automatically your application server receive millions of requests per second. In case your application running 10 missions or 20 missions, which is not a good practice, right, to handle that much of load. So that end users getting some performance issues. So once they open that gaming application, it would be stuck, because you don't have a huge infrastructure to handle that much of load. What you will do? Simply you can expand your data center. Because you have a physical data center, you are planning to expand. So once you expand that data center, or else once you maintain your application in your own physical data center, you need a different teams, right? So we need Linux admins, OS admins, database admins, security team required, and you can manage end-to-end infrastructure, cooling operators. So we have a lot of requirements. So you have to procure more than 100 people to manage that particular gaming application in your own data center. In the same way, in case if you're planning to migrate same application from our data center to cloud environment, you don't need to procure all people, because once your application deployed and running AWS cloud, we need only AWS engineer. One AWS or one cloud engineer can manage and equal to 20 data center people, because we don't need to maintain any physical resources. Obviously, security team gone, and we don't need to manage the backend infrastructure, because the backend physical infrastructure take care by Amazon team. So the data center peoples also reduce. So it is same like, so once the manpower reduce, automatically the cost would be reduced. In case to develop and deploy the gaming application in our own on-premises data center, let us assume you spend 10 crores to release that application finally. Okay, so finally you spend 10 crores. In the same way, in case if you develop same application and deploy same application in your cloud technology, you spend some lakhs, around 52 or 1 crore, because you no need to procure physical data center, right? So simply register account and then set up your infrastructure using that AWS web services and then deploy your application. So to develop your data center and deploy our applications in our on-premises data center, it took, for example, 1 year to develop entire data center setup. But in the same way, in cloud, hardly it will take months, 2 to 3 months. Once your requirement team taking that requirement and your design team design that architecture based on that application. So once the design is completed, so within 1 or 2 months, you can build your entire end-to-end infrastructure, because you don't need to go for any way and you don't need to wait for any other team approvals. Once your design is approved, your architecture is approved, then you can start to do your implementation. So that's why automatically your cost would be reduced. Okay, and the scalability. Scalability means when you compare your on-premises data center and your physical data center, I mean your cloud data center, so we have some enhanced features. So today you deploy application and you choose some resource capacity. You choose some 100 GB RAM disk and 10 GB or 100 GB database storage. But suddenly your application incoming load increases. So during that high load, how we can handle? It is not possible, right? In case your application running physical data center, again immediately you can procure or you can set up new instances and a new physical servers and add it to that instance. But in AWS cloud, we have enhanced features. So based on that incoming load, based on our scaling policies, it will automatically expand our infrastructure, expand our resources without any manual intervention. So once the high load comes, it will automatically launch few instances and distribute that load, parallelly distribute that load to that newly launched instances. So that much of scalability services are there, and also security. So if we compare, most of the clients, they raise some questions. What about security? So how I can trust that AWS account? Because once if I develop infrastructure, my entire application code running in AWS data center. So how I can assure you? So that much of certifications AWS already clear, and they provide end-to-end security. Okay, I will tell you later on session some scenarios also, then you will get more idea. And architecture. So AWS design regions and availability zones. So they have designed regions and availability zones. So if you go and check AWS account, as of now, Amazon established more than 20 regions. Regions are isolated, which is located across global. In India, as of now, we have Mumbai region, and going on, you will get Hyderabad also. So still it is under construction. So once the data centers are set up, they will establish Hyderabad region also. And this is a high-level AWS cloud architecture. So they establish regions. Within the regions, they configure availability zones. Within the availability zone, they have set up one or more data centers. one or more data centers within the availability zone. But as per data center policies, they have highlighted list of regions and availability zones list. So they are not highlighted data center list. So might be they have set up one or more data centers within the availability zone. But minimum they could maintain 50-kilometer distance between one data center to another data center. So this is high level architecture. Regions, availability zones. Within the availability zone, they have set up multiple data centers. I mean, one or more data centers. It's high level architecture. And every region, we have a unique code. Same like every availability zone, we have a code. So few data centers, few regions, they configure 2 or 3 availability zones. Few regions, they configure more than 6 availability zones. It depends on regions operations. In case they got number of requests every day to set up new infrastructure for that client, they will planning to expand their data centers. Once they establish new data centers, obviously that availability zones are increased. You can see regions are isolated. By default, we don't have a direct connection between one region to another region, but within the region, we have a one or more availability zones, right? So we can connect one availability zone to another availability zone without privileges. So it will connect low latency links, but we have a direct connection because these availability zones are located same region. By default, we don't have direct connection one availability zone to another availability zone, which is located different regions. Okay. And accessing ways. We have 4 ways to manage AWS cloud services. Either you can choose console management using this link. You will get the console management will provide GUI interface. You can manage your activities completely graphical, or else we have CLI, command line interface. Using AWS CLI commands, you can manage our resources. But most of the cases, CLI we can use for some automation perspective. And we have 2 more ways, APIs and SDK. So APIs and SDK, mostly developers focusing on this part because they are already aware of the development knowledge using Java or Python or Node.js. They created some customized SDKs. Through that SDKs, they can manage your AWS services. Okay. And we have a free tier account. Once you register free tier account, you will get which is offer up to 12 months free tier. So you can use up to 12 months some free tier services. Okay. So whatever services required to manage DevOps services, DevOps automation tools, I will give you each and every service use case, and I will show you how we can implement part of real time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any queries? Any questions need to discuss? Course duration and documentation recordings, you will contact with career IT team. They will guide you how we can access those links, and they will provide links. And if you have any questions related to AWS cloud and DevOps services, yeah, please. I hope everyone clear what is DevOps, what is cloud computing, and why we go for cloud, right?
I got it here.
Yeah, any questions? I think I see more than 30 people joined today demo session. If you want recording session, please contact Career IT team. They will provide.
Yeah, so Ganesh, thanks for the demo. So I have one question.
May I know who is speaking?
Yeah, hi, this is
Yeah, yes, Anupam.
Ankam.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So I just want to know, like, whatever that you explained, like, waterfall to agile, why agile, and then what exactly we will do as a DevOps engineer, and all. So it's all fine, but my only question is actually I have almost 7+ years of experience into IT. I'm a Java developer. So my question is more with I'm more concerned about in the last 7 years I haven't seen a project where we will have different operations team and different developers team. So we maintain it completely. Of course, when it comes to the infrastructure, yes, we do have people, but when it comes to the build, deployment, and continuous integration, we do it on our own. So, what is the market availability for this particular DevOps engineer?
So yeah, since last 7 years, you worked on pure development environment, right? Yes, yes. Yeah, it will helpful you. For example, see, generally before you comes DevOps, you worked on either agile model or waterfall model or some other SDLC process, right? So to develop your applications. Okay, now,
Yeah, I work on.
yes, 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 yes. So once you comes to DevOps, once you understand the source code tools and CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment tools, you can enhance your existing steps. So before you work on your own environment, right? For example, simply your team provided some module. Based on that module, you write that code and provide that code, right? So might be you use some share folder or something. But once you comes to DevOps, every time you no need to contact our developers, whoever were reporting you, you no need to contact the developer manually. So once you complete your development part, simply update our changes remotely. You can continuously update our changes to that repository source code. So every time you no need to contact our developers. So once you gathering requirements, once you develop your code, your entire code you will integrate it to your source code repository. And once you commit any new changes, and once your development part is done, once you commit new changes, it will perform automatically your code to deployment. Again, you no need to discuss your reporter, and you no need to discuss your build and team, and you no need to discuss your testing team. So all stages will perform automatically one by one. So once you release your new application source code. So that's what we are focusing. Using DevOps, we implement this kind of continuous activities. Yeah, of course, using agile model or some other SDLC model, you already continuously develop your software application. But the deployment process is still you will discuss with operations team, right? Again, you have to wait for some time. And also, in case you get any requirement, they will not provide instantly. You have to wait for some time. And also, you have to notify, I want this requirement to develop this application, to test this application. So once you raise a request to that operations team or procure team, after some time, they will provide you. But in DevOps, you no need to wait for other team approvals. And also, once you complete your end-to-end implementation, your pipeline process, uh, once your customer gathering requirements and once you start to write our code, and once your code is completed and your team is good to go, simply you can merge your changes to that repository, source code repository. That's all. Your work is done. Within a minutes, you will get a result. You will get immediate feedback. Your code is successfully working or not. You no need to wait for some time. But before we enter into DevOps, you have to wait for some time, right? Because testing team will test your application. Might be they will take some time to test your applications by using some frameworks. You have to wait for test results. But once you integrate DevOps, once you migrate DevOps, you will get immediate feedback. Whichever code you develop, it is successfully deployed, successfully working or not. Is there any bugs are there? immediately you will receive feedback. That is what we focus. And then in case you will get any bugs and your team identified any bugs after deploying, again you start to resolve the bugs immediately. So this kind of continuous deployment and integration part will perform using some automation tools. Clear? And once you migrate DevOps, you no need to wait for infrastructure provisioning. Let's say, for example, you will get some requirement. So your reporting person provides some module. So please work on this module and develop, write a code using Java language. But you don't have any infrastructure. You don't have any development environment. So what you will do generally, you will try to raise a request to operations team. So whoever manage that infrastructure part, you will try to request operations team. So they will take some time and then provide you. So in the meantime, you have to wait for that request, right? But in DevOps, you don't need to wait for other people. So simply take the Docker image and create your required environment. So that image already contain end-to-end application configuration. Let's say you need Java environment. Yeah, simply go your repository, Docker repository, and search which language image you want, and then run that command. Those instructions already DevOps team provided you. So based on that instructions, based on that Confluence page, you can provisioning your own resources. You don't need to depend operations team, and you don't need to depend infrastructure team. You got my point?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's what you should be learn this technique. Yes. Any other questions? No questions? Okay. So I hope everyone should understand DevOps and cloud use cases. Okay, guys. Thank you. Thanks for joining. If you want recording session, please contact Career IT team. They will provide link and then go through that recording session if you want to review more clearly. Okay. Yeah. See you technical session. Thank you all. Thanks for joining. Have a good day. Happy weekend.
Thanks, Ganesh.
Yes. Thank you.